Hi, have you ever sat there and wondered where your money goes each month? I certainly have. My name is Emily and welcome to my channel. In this channel, we talk about all things post redundancy. And one of those things that we talk about and certainly think about when we're being made redundant is how we're going to pay the bills. And so I thought I'd take some time to address that a little bit with regards to some hints and maybe some tips in how we can overcome that fear about how are we going to pay some bills or pay the bills once we've been told that we're being made redundant. Now, I mentioned previously in a previous video that I live via the 50-30-20 rule. And I've been asked since then about exactly what is that, Emily? What is the 50-30-20 rule? And in this video, I thought I would provide some detail. Now, the 50-30-20 rule very much is a budgeting rule. It's very much a method in a way that you can, split your income into three buckets. And keep yourself within a frame. I like, as you know, if you like, a frame in the sense of percentage of your overall income. So that way, then you don't kind of overcommit. And it certainly has worked for me, especially now that I'm going through this redundancy, that I actually didn't overcommit on certain things that I probably could have had. But because I do live by the 50-30-20 rule, I've kind of gone, no, not going to do that because it will take me over my percentage. So let me start by explaining what the 50-30-20 rule is. So when you've got your income and you've calculated all of your income streams into one total amount, and those income streams could be wages, it could be any benefits you may receive, it could be a side hustle that you're working on and you're getting income from. Once you've got all that in there, and I'd also add your pension. So if you're adding an amount into your pension pot, then again you can add that into this amount as well, and I'll explain to you a little bit later as to why. Well, what that does is that gives you your total amount of money that you can then allocate within the 50-30-20 buckets. Now, I'm going to use the word buckets because, well, that's just what comes out of my mouth. So the 50 bucket is the needs bucket. Your 30 bucket is your investment and debts bucket. And your 20 bucket is your wants bucket. And that's probably the best bucket, to be fair. So let's start with the 50 bucket. So the 50 bucket is all of the needs. So it's your rent, it's your mortgage, it's all of your household payments requirements, such as any insurances you may have. It's also travel. So in a sense of your traveling needs. So if you need to travel to work, it's any insurances for your car and obviously your diesel and things of that nature. It doesn't include if you have a car finance. That sits in a different bucket, so it doesn't sit in that one. So don't put it in there. It also adds obviously your groceries. So if you add, if you have a grocery budget that you go by each month to make sure that you don't overspend, then obviously that goes in there as well. And that really adds up the 50% bucket. Now, the 50% bucket and the 30 and the 20 is literally 50% of your total income amount is allocated to that 50% bucket. 30% of your total income amount goes to your 30% bucket, and 20% of your total income amount goes to your 20% bucket. Does that make sense? Certainly does. Okay, let's move on. So we've looked at our 50% bucket and we've got that one now down. That's great. So now we're going to move on to the 30% bucket. And the 30% bucket is exactly that. It looks after or should deal with all of your debts and all of your investments. And that is where you put in your pension. So I mentioned earlier that you put it into your total amount, or it goes straight into the investment bucket the 30%. And the reason being full is because you are literally looking after your future self. It's an investment. You're investing in you. So it goes into that bucket. Again, I mentioned car finance. Again, it's a debt. So that also goes into the 30% bucket. And any other debts that you may have. So whether that be loans or credit cards, they also go into that bucket. Now, investments also come out of that bucket as well. So if you're investing in an emergency fund or a just in case fund or into a high yield savings, compound interest savings fund, and if you don't know what compound interest is, then obviously do look that up. But it's basically it's a savings fund that compounds over time. So it's not just giving you interest on your initial amount that you put in, but it's also giving you interest on your interest. But more detail, www up. So that's basically your 30% fund. And then what you've also got now left over is your 20%. And your 20% is, as I said, is all of your wants. So your wants is literally that. It's what do I want to have? So that could be your health, your own health care, so gym membership, your hairdresser's appointments, your nail appointments. It could also be your funds. So if you would like to go out and socialise with the ladies or like to go out and socialise with the boys, then of course, you want to have a limit. Obviously that sits into the fund. But again, once that fund's all been spent, the fund stops. That must be a rule. Once the fund is empty, the fund stops. And that all sits into the 20%. Now, if you haven't done this before, then start to map that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a template into this description box below so that you're able to do that. And be really honest with yourself and start mapping that out. And you'll be able to see where you're probably over in one bucket and not enough in another bucket. And then you can start to make those adjustments. So that really is the 50-30-20 rule. It's a bit of a snapshot. I appreciate that. But that's kind of really what it is. Now, what I also do, and this is obviously helps towards the budgeting, but it's not a spreadsheet, it's actually an app. And this app isn't sponsored at all, but I use the app called Scoop. Now, what Scoop is, it's a tracking app basically. So you link all of your bank accounts to the app and it tracks all of your expenses, all of your outgoing expenses, your needs, your wants, everything. It tracks the whole lot, exactly where you spent it. And it will also tell you if you spent less this week compared to last week, or you spent more this week compared to last week. And it will tell you exactly where you've spent it. So what you spent on entertainment, what you spent on home, and it will give you that sort of comparison. And you can start to really look at using the kind of structure to see where it is that you need to, again, make some adjustments. But what it also does is, it's probably really the main feature in which I use it for, is it really tells me exactly the bills and what I need to have in the bank to be able to cover those bills. And as the bills are being paid off, and it also gives you the date in which the bills are needed to go out, so you know exactly the first of the month or the 10th of the month that you need to have this amount of money in the bank to cover those bills. It gives you all that detail as well. And obviously, as the bills, as I said, as the bills are being paid off, the amount that's on the top that says it needs to be owed to have in the bank to be able to pay these bills off also goes down as well. So you know exactly how much you need to have in the bank to cover those bills. What else does it have? Oh, let me think. What else does it have? It also tells you if your bills have gone up or have gone down. So has that bill increased or has that bill decreased? And if it hasn't, it's only pennies. We know that. It's only pennies, not enough. We pay far too much in bills, don't we? So that's kind of really Scoop and exactly what it is that it does. But it is a useful app and a useful tool if you're one of those people that really want to keep track of your expenses and where things are going. And I find it invaluable. Now, the third thing that I use, and I use it quite a lot, is I use the Starling bank account. Now, again, it's an online bank account. You know, you can't go and find one of these banks on your high street or anything like that. It really is online. But what I like to use that app for, or that bank account for, is the feature that it's got, which is the Spaces feature. Now, I've not found any other bank that has this feature. This is the only one I've found that has it, so I find it really useful. Now, what this has, it has 10 spaces. And if you think about it, back in the day with our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, they would have jars on top of a shelf and they would put the money in the jars in preparation for their bills. And this is very much similar to that, if not the same, but without the jars. So you've got 10 spaces, and then you can use those or utilize those again for your bills. But I utilize mine for future bills, so such as Christmas. We know Christmas comes around every year, we can't dodge it. It's 25th December, whether we like it or not. And if you've got children and grandchildren, or you've got best friends, BFFs, that you obviously want to just say thank you on the 25th of December for them just being there in your life, and you obviously want to put a little bit of money and buy them a gift, then you want to be saving that throughout the year. It's an ideal way to do that. What I also use mine for is for holidays. Now, I'm a bit of a sucker for a holiday, or I used to say I was a sucker for a holiday. I'm obviously now being made redundant, so I'm going to have to relook at that one. But I still feel the need that, we work hard and life is hard, that actually a holiday, even if, it might not be a holiday abroad anymore, it might be a holiday in the UK, but still a holiday nevertheless. I think we need those, don't you? Nice holiday. I think we need that. But in order to be able to pay for that, it's nice to be able to save that throughout the year, and that way it's not just a big bill. And if you're going through redundancy like me, you don't want big bills. So having these little spaces that you can put this little bit in as and when you can, certainly helps towards that. Now I'm going to link both of those in the description below, so I shall link the Scoop for you and also the Starling Bank for you as well, so you can actually have a look for yourselves and see if it's something that you want to get involved in, if it's something that will benefit yourself. But that's kind of really it for this video. I hope that you found it useful. Please do come back again in my next video. There's plenty more that I want to bring to this channel. But until then, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye bye.